Okay, I have some questions here, some other questions. The first one is for the past weeks I've been talking dissecting the moon, various things surrounding it. Today I call this one Chase of the East, Chasing the East. Okay, we know that the true reality life is an isness, but we find people running after it. Examples of this chase is, for instance, going to mountain retreats, caves, holy places, and holy lands to be in contact with what they say, what they're looking for, looking for. In fact, what they're looking for is the real connection through the sound light reality, which they know for in their circles as whatever the Holy Spirit. Okay, Paul Tucher once said that one doesn't need to get out the door to take a step backward or forward to be in contact with the reality life is. Another instance of chasing the east is could be when one manipulates outer events to concretize a real side experience. This is my opinion. So I don't know whether Jane can say something about this what I term ludicrous chase of the east that we find all around us. Yeah, Dwayne?
Well, it's the same idea, Charles. How people have been conditioned to react a particular way, which is understandable. And just like what you said there, what Paul mentioned about you don't have to go backward or forward, even leave your house. Yeah, Lacey mentioned that too. All the real guides know this. But at the same time, you don't want to misunderstand what is being said. At the same time, you have to go to, in today's world, you might say you have to go to work to get money to pay the rent. So they see the mechanics of that. What they're talking about is your real awareness. It's not, everything applies accordingly. If it's your emotional state, if it's your mental, your memories in your past, your intuition, whatever, everything applies accordingly. So, yeah, that's about your real awareness, because with your real awareness, it's recognition, and then at the same time, you have the five bodies and mainly the physical. And so what do you do with that? So, the old idea of sitting around in a lotus position, that really doesn't work in today's world because of what is going on. And actually, in its own way, this is a better time to wake up because people are paying more attention because they have to, you see? You have to pay attention. So this is where the benefit of what is taking place, there is always a benefit side, but you have to recognize that. Yes, it is bad. We're being poisoned to death. So that means you only have so much time to wake up. So is that going to get your focus to do it and hurry up? Hurry up and wake up, hurry up and recognize. In other words, you only have so much time to catch the bus. So you better hurry up and get down to the bus stop. You got to run sometimes. I remember one time we were going to a seminar, and because the traffic was so bad going to LA, my wife and I, and we had the child, we had our daughter with us. She was very little. I had to carry her. We had to run through the airport, and just as the door was closing on the plane, we made it. And that was through the parking and everything else, because there were several things taking place on the freeway. I had plenty of time, but all of a sudden that time was used up. You see, again, we're thinking we have plenty of time. You really don't. You have no time. But the reality is that yes, it's all here and now. In your real awareness. Now, Paul used the idea of consciousness. Now, this in itself, because again, you have to see again, he was babying people. Like a parent will use a little rattle for the baby to get the baby's attention, and oh, the baby likes that, a little rattle or a little doll or whatever it is, etc., to get their attention. But that's not the reality itself, is it? So, Paul used the idea of consciousness because he kind of snuck in this true reality, but for the most part it was unseen. He kind of snuck in this true reality through what existed here. This is where he kind of put it together for everybody. And so the reference that you made there with what he said, yes, it makes sense, but only according to your real awareness. But for the most part, that's misunderstood. And yes, this is where people are chasing. They're doing the same thing. They're going off to retreats and whatever. And yes, everybody needs time out. I go surfing or take walks or whatever. That's my time out here physically, the physical body itself. But thinking that just because you go somewhere or you're in some situation or you're at the top of the mountain, that it's different than the nowness you're in now, it's not. But it is nice to have that sometimes. Sometimes we need that in the physical sense and also for the other bodies, you see. But your real awareness is always in the isness, and that's a recognition. So even the idea that Paul used, and he used consciousness and used the old ideas, self-realization, God consciousness. And this is really in creation. These are created ideas, but it's a step for people. And so... now we're into the position to where now you're starting to see, oh, this is what is meant. You see, after you've went through all these paths and all this wisdom of the ages and whatever, it's really about your real awareness. And now that you have that, what will you do? Do the boys, do the real guides sit around? They don't sit around. As an example, Claudia and I have made tastes because we're very focused on particulars that most people don't know about yet. On the real side, we're doing this, and the boys are adamant with this too, as I've decided this, and they've agreed, again, like the Queen of Orion and things like this, because that affects the Earth. There's something bigger affecting the Earth than just a loose wire in your radio. Yeah, there's a bigger picture, and most people do not get that or even would believe that that is so. They just go, ha, ha, ha. Even people in the group here, whatever, or others, they would just, no, I don't get that. I don't accept that. Like people when they look at chemtrails, oh, I don't believe that's poison. Now, you can believe whatever you want or whatever that idea, but the reality is there's a lot more going on. And so as I start to see these things and become aware, I take a position with it. I don't just sit there and do nothing. I take a position and not think that, oh, someone else is going to deal with it or someone else can handle it, or the isness will take care of it. No, at this position we're in here in the physical sense with what's affecting us, no, I decide what's going on. And so, again, I haven't let out the bigger picture yet. But it takes a few minutes, and the boys, they have their own task with it too, because it takes agreement. They don't force it upon others. It's not through violence that this takes place. This is what the elites do. They just go in and take over other countries. That's why they created the U.S. That's why the U.S. has been in wars and conflicts since the day it was created, simply because this is why it was created, to create conflict. And people are starting to wake up to this a little bit. It's kind of like, well, why is this happening? Well, as you see, the unseen part, this is all purposely planned. And so dealing with this on a bigger scale, to oversee this and to handle that, with what's going on in the world, because the world is so agreeable to its own demise right now. This is in the consciousness. It's on its own time card, you might say. It's on automatic. It's automatically doing it. And people can think, well, I don't want that, but you're still agreeing to it unconsciously. So, yes, Charles, yeah, all this entails what it does. And so this is the task of bringing this out, isn't it, in a particular, and seeing who will wake up to it. And again, realistically, we only have so much time. This 5G network, as an example, and they're already implementing it. They're going to do it whether people agree to it or not. Just like anything they do, and just like we have weather control with HARP and the chemtrails and everything else. It's happening. The whole world is basically weather control, and the ocean's polluted, etc. Yes, it's really happening. Oh, there's people cleaning up the beach, but is that doing it? So the boys are focused. We're all focused on a bigger picture than it's even known here. But it takes a few minutes, but we'll see and get in agreement with that too. That's another story. So people make a choice. So here we are, Charles. Here you are. And so again, you speak their language, you might say, and to implement to the people you do. I speak the language here. We're letting people know, but who is paying attention, just like when Noah built the boat, that story, it's a cute story, but who paid attention, and all of a sudden the big flood came, didn't it? It did come like clockwork. It was forecast to come. And people have created their own destiny. Those that are into prophecy, well, the prophecy is being fulfilled by what is agreed to and is taking place. So in the meantime, yes, it's that stepping up, okay, and doing something real, not just talking in cliches. I really get tired of the talking and the writing at times. I really do, because that's all it is. Talk, 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 write, write, write. But I know that's necessary, but it's the actions also that take place, just like Val is going to the college and getting that interaction with these people that are very resistant to to anything really. Uh, they will think of many ways to be resistant. This is how they've been conditioned. This is how the world has been conditioned to accept restriction as their reality. They got to figure out a new restriction. This is why the lawmakers are making laws every day. This is all they do, 24 hours a day, create restrictions. So the task for us is huge, isn't it? But it's that activity also. What will you do? So now that you have the awareness, what will you do with that? So again, Charles, we have to make hard choices, and I've made them to get here. And I left my la la land, and I went through that, etc., and it was fine. But I made hard choices to get here to do this, and I see that this is a greater benefit, because if I wouldn't have, you wouldn't be here. You might say, you're in my dream, you're in my creation that I've created to do this, and at the same time, you're in yours also. So what Paul created, from that I took it and I created. So, I'm like the child of Paul and Rebazar, because they created situations with me, for me, etc. Then I took that and I created this for everyone else that comes along. So it is that active part that makes sense. And we already know that, just like people get together, have a relationship, and create babies. That's cute. That's very cute, but there's more to it than that. What is the real purpose of all that? So recognizing that too. Having a real purpose, not just a career, but a purpose and then a real purpose. There is a difference. So that activity is very important. And so until people decide that and see through what's taking place here, they won't. They keep agreeing because it's more comfortable, but the end result is they will experience the effects of what they've decided. So we're trying to warn everybody here, and etc. Yes, go ahead, Charles. Thank you.
Yeah, then thank you too. The next commentary I have is what you would call baptism. Yeah, the phenomenon of baptism starts from the Christian religion, and it's very intriguing when viewed from the real awareness. Okay, as I've said, this starts with John the Baptist, uh, baptizing Jesus in the river Jordan and hearing the words, "This is my beloved son, my beloved son, in whom I'm well pleased." However, it is uh, baptism. When I look at it critically, it is showering one with the sound like reality. And this, I think, everyone can do for themselves by singing the new song and being connected to the true sound reality rather than its shadow in the physical and psychic world. And you'll see how people go to hazardous lengths to have to be baptized or to do baptism. I want to cite a case of that an incident that happened this month in Ethiopia, where a crocodile killed a pastor during an 80% baptism ceremony at a lake in southern Ethiopia. So what happened? The crocodile leaped from the water and attacked the Protestant pastor, Docho, during the Sunday baptism ceremony on the shores of Lake Abaya. He died after the crocodile beat his legs, back, and hands. So can you imagine a 2,200 pounds croc that leaped from the water during the so-called baptism exercise, baptism ceremony. So the residents, they tried to do everything. There's nothing they could do, and they just barely saved the pastor from being taken for his body being taken away by the croc under the water, together with the fishing nets. So the crocodile went away. It escaped, and they had to take the remains of the pastor, and this was during what you call baptism, which is supposed to be one of the events where, in quotes, the Holy Spirit is very active, protective. I would find here that the Holy Spirit failed. So, Duane, what can you say about baptism from the religious point of view, which is by an outside agent, and what I may call true baptism, that each individual confers on his or herself by singing the new song and being connected to the sound-like reality of the East. Yeah, Duane?
Well, actually, that's very good. Your last sentence there was very good, and you can utilize that. Again, you use what you do, but this becomes a little bit humorous in its own way, and that is that I would say here is where life is giving people a hint. It's a big hint right in front of them. Do they see it? Number one, the guys in the river, okay, and the old saying, well, you're flowing down the river, you're going to go over the falls if you don't watch out. So there's the river. He's doing the ceremony, which is all reptilian, and he gets attacked by a reptile. And so, so much for the baptism. See, do you see the hint there? And who's getting
Yeah,
it? You see?
yeah,
Yeah,
I see.
it's all there. It's all there, but who is seeing it? You see? And so, when you said, well, here is where supposedly the Holy Spirit failed. No, the Holy Spirit did not fail. The Holy Spirit succeeded. Because again, I've defined holy, and that's where you have holes in your aura. That's where the word holy came from. It's really about that. Divine, dying on the vine. That's divine, okay? And holy is tap lining. And know the Holy Spirit, well, what they call their Holy Spirit, okay, because it is spirit, okay, which is shape-shifting astral entities. Those are spirits. See, it all implies. It's all there, but can people see it? Because, again, this is what's been agreed to, hasn't it? It has all been agreed to. They created these ideas, and people agree to them, like the marriage idea. You go to the church to have it done, you see, and you get tap lined. And so, again, everybody takes the risk here, and all of a sudden there's the situation as, hey, there's the river, and there are crocodiles in the river, but the man can think, okay, the priest can think because he's a priest of God, okay, of the reptilian God, that he'll be fine. Well, things happen, don't they? And it did. And so it's not that, it's not about his belief. That's an idea. It's about the situation. You're going to walk into a river with crocodiles or piranha and thinking that, oh, I'll be protected. Even the boys, they can protect you. They can do whatever they want, but they don't make the choice for you. You see, I've put myself into so many situations that I've had to deal with, but I'm not thinking that, oh, I'll be saved, I'll be protected. I don't think along those terms. I take the risk, I see what happens, and that's what I do. I don't even ask many times. I just take the risk to see what happens and figure it out. And so this is how it got me here. And, on the way, yeah, they've shaken their finger at me many times. It's like, etc. But yeah, I've still taken the risk to bring this through, and other things too. And but the pastor, the priest there, he took the risk. But it's all demonstrated what baptism is. And so, it's so simple what we're doing. And again, people have been taught, look at the school system, complexity, what Val and Kelsey are seeing, and especially Val here, because he's been mainly a gardener most of his life, or later part of his life here, and he's just out there just mowing lawns and whatever. And now he's confronting all this, and he's seeing all the particular pieces, all the little things that make up these big buildings where they teach others. So we're dealing with Orange Coast College here. Now you're seeing all the little pieces that make it up, and paying more attention to what's going on, because we're having to deal and live in this world as we're, it's not only us, waking up to what's going on, but it's, what are you here for? In other words, you're to learn to stand real and support others as they support you with the all is. That's the whole idea. Or you don't. You decide not to. So again, the real guides are an example. And here is an example of what's taking place on Earth. And did the priest, did he check the stream for crocodiles? It would have been... it might have been even, well, it would have been interesting too if the person that he was baptizing got eaten too, or that became first, etc. So then it would look like a sacrifice, wouldn't it? So it can go either way. But realistically, what do these ideas lead to? The baptism, and even if it's in the church where it's safe or what have you, it's all reptilian tap lining. But this is all people know. And so this is where the real education comes in. And this is the toughie, to present to the world something real that makes sense in accordance with what they've been conditioned with. And each person has to see that for themselves. Yes, it's huge, Charles. So again, you decide how you're going to approach this. If people ask me the difference, I will explain it simply, that that's simply tap lining, and if that's what you want, go for it. If you want to pray to gods, go for it. But I'm not going to baby them and tell them to, well, just think of it like that you're being baptized by the is. No, because there's still, again, people are thinking in terms of, oh, well, what Duane is saying with the isness, the all is, it's the same as God. It's just another God. No, it's not. It's not even close because it has nothing to do with creation. But as you do that, again, you're conditioning them also. So as you use these old cliches, keep in mind those words are reptilian. They really are baptism, Holy Spirit, all these things. And as you bring them in, just like Joni brought in everything that Paul had presented and utilizes it, now she's changing it, reworking it, bringing in worshiping and prayer. You see where it goes. On down the line, everybody's tap line, everybody is ruined and gets cancers. So again, you make a choice at some point. Do you make a clean cut? Do you cut off that stuff? And it's like, if you want to do that, here, go have fun. I don't decide for people, but I do creatively show them the difference. Take the time to explain the difference. But and I have used a few things like Pray for Purity and Church of Nature. I just kind of did that as a test. That's kind of something that's more of a generalization, especially the Church of Nature thing. I don't really care for that, but just give people something. But I'm not going to harp on that. I'm just going to give people a little bit of something and see. And I defined church as community. That was my definition of it. And people will have their own definition of it. That's fine. Have fun. Pray for purity. And that's very real, too, in its sense. Because if you're going to pray, and if you pray for purity, I would say at some point the person is going to be shown and recognize an aspect of the true reality to succeed from there. But I don't know. That's just something. But I don't want to harp on these things. But I throw out a little bit there. It's kind of like, you want to eat healthy organic food, but once in a while you're going to have a pizza or a hot dog. Okay, once in a while you're going to kind of throw that in there, but you're not going to make a big deal out of it. And so that's just how it is here. So this whole thing here, I suggest to, let people know the difference, especially because this baptism idea, this Holy Spirit thing is really thick here. It's as thick as the petroleum layer on the ocean and the world. It's thick. And so I don't see any benefit to relating to it in any way at all, because most people are emotionally attached to this idea, and it really promotes demise. But again, each person makes the choice, just like if they want to worship and pray, just like the membership shrimps do to the Callum God, and worship and pray and give money to Joni, that's fine, but it all leads to their demise and cancers. Life is not backing them. This is it. You need that backing. You need the boys, you need the whole of life. Otherwise, you got nothing. So what does baptism mean? So again, you're there. And yeah, the ritualism is all over the world. It only appears different, Charles. So what Africa has, what the United States has, what Europe has, South America, the North and South Poles, everybody's got their ritualism. And so this becomes a challenge to decipher that and to better explain something that makes more sense. But you decide, yes. Yes, thank you for bringing that up. So that will be, again, another love-hate relationship with the world as they hear this.